Good morning, I'm Julie, and this is entry number 4 for my video diary, a year in the life of an elementary Spanish teacher. And I wanted to share something that happened this week with my first grade classes, and I would love to hear your thoughts and perspective on this. So some of you may know that last year I decided to teach my kindergarten classes 100% in the target language. And not only that, but also to pretend not only that I don't speak English, but also that I don't understand English. My other classes, I've been teaching 90% in the target language, 90% and above, and that has been its own incredible journey over the last several years. But this mini immersion, as it were, has been a new experience for me and really exciting. And so last year with my kindergartners and this 100%, one of the things that was fascinating to watch and one of the dynamics that was definitely very different was that not only, in my 90% classes, certainly, and in these mini immersions, I have to figure out how to communicate comprehensibly with my students so they can understand the Spanish that I'm speaking, but my kindergartners had to figure out how to communicate with me because I don't speak English. And that dynamic was a total shift in how the class progressed and what it looked like. So one of the interesting things that happened was that they took a strategy that I use with my other classes to a certain extent, where I allow children to get up and point to things on the wall when they're trying to communicate something. And my kindergartners took that and ran with it. They would get up and point to numbers and colors and the animals and size words, whatever it was. They really used that strategy to communicate with me. And that was fascinating to watch, and it was just really, really great. So this year, they're first graders. And I'm continuing with this immersion type situation, 100% in the target language. And again, I still don't speak or understand English. So at the beginning of first grade, I introduced the question, ¿Cómo estás? And I start by sharing 2 answers to that question, and then we add another 2 and then another 2, and usually by the end of November we've gotten to about 10 or 12 answers. So I start with estoy bien y estoy mal, and then we move to tengo hambre y tengo sed, then tengo frío, tengo calor, and so on. So this week I introduced the question ¿Cómo estás? I introduced the 2 answers, estoy bien, estoy mal, and my kids, they're not satisfied with just those 2 answers. They're getting up and they're pointing to other answers on the board. They're using that vocabulary because we've been integrating it organically last year. Hace frío y hace calor when we were talking about seasons. So tengo frío y tengo calor is nothing to them, right? We have been using tengo hambre a lot because food is a big component in many of my themes. And so they were just accessing and pointing to and using components and pieces of all these other answers that I usually introduce over time. And I can show you the board. I'll get up, and kind of give you a visual sense as we walk around my room here. Hopefully you can see these. So this is the board with our answers. And they were just coming up, as they do last year, and just pointing to whatever it is that they wanted to say instead of sticking to those 2 that I was teaching directly, right? And this was a mind-blowing moment for me. It was really exciting to have happen, and it brought up for me the realization that I wasn't going to be teaching this vocabulary the same way that I have in the past. Pretty linear, in a linear fashion in the past, and this was going to be more organic. And that was a discovery for me last year, and even with the 90% that is really exciting about how these classes go. Things are very organic. Things come up very naturally. The interaction is very it's still driven by the themes, and it's still driven by our key vocabulary, which I think is really important. I'm not serving as a dictionary all of the time, and I think that's an important piece. We have, a set of vocabulary. Like I said, that's driven by the themes and driven by the curriculum. But together with that is this organic piece where I'm providing a lot of input that they're picking up and they're using, but it's a conversation. And I love that, where the conversation is embedded in the theme work and some of the other directed activities. And it allows us to add in all of these other pieces. And that's a really exciting and fascinating thing to watch happen with my students. And it really reinforces for me how important that input is with our students, and how when I'm providing more and more language and I am interacting with them in this organic manner, they interact organically. And they interact. I'm watching my fourth graders, do some really cool things, really amazing things. But yesterday's and this week's first grade classes, where they were accessing this and causing me to really reflect and think about how I'm going to do this differently, is so exciting. I started teaching in 1993, and I love that I'm at this point in my career and new things are still happening and new dynamics are still occurring that are causing me to reflect and get really excited and interested in what I'm doing. So I would, again, love to hear your thoughts and reflections if you're thinking about teaching in the target language more, or even an immersion type situation. Love to hear your thoughts. So please put them in the comments, and I will see you next time. Thanks. Bye.